The knocking started as a faint tap, like a branch brushing a window, but by midnight, it was a relentless drumbeat echoing from every corner of the house. No matter how many times I checked, the doors and windows stared back empty, dark, and silent. My name's Ethan, and I was 17 when it happened. It was a Friday night in October, the kind of crisp, quiet night where the air feels heavy with secrets. My parents were away for the weekend, leaving me alone in our old two-story house at the edge of town. I didn't mind. I was used to the creaks and groans of the place, wood settling, pipes humming. I'd planned a night of pizza, video games, and maybe a horror movie to lean into the spooky season vibe. Nothing out of the ordinary. Around 9 p.m., I was sprawled on the couch, controller in hand, when I first heard it. A soft tap, tap, tap. It came from the front door, faint enough that I thought it was just the wind rattling the loose screen. I paused my game, ears straining. Silence. I shrugged it off, chalking it up to the house's usual noises. Old houses talk, you know? But then it came again, a little louder, more deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. 3 slow, even knocks, like someone testing the door's strength. I set the controller down, my stomach doing a little flip. I wasn't scared, not yet, just annoyed. Probably some kid pulling a prank. I got up, my socks scuffing against the hardwood, and peered through the peephole. The porch was empty, bathed in the dim glow of the single bulb above the door. The street beyond was quiet. The neighbors' houses dark. I flicked on the outdoor floodlight, expecting to catch a glimpse of someone darting away. Nothing. Just the sway of bare branches in the breeze. Shaking my head, I locked the deadbolt for good measure and went back to the couch. But before I could unpause my game, it happened again. Tap, tap, tap. This time, it wasn't the front door. It was the kitchen door, the one leading to the backyard. My heart gave a quick thud. The backyard was fenced, and the gate was always locked. No one should be out there. I grabbed my phone, thumb hovering over my dad's number, but I stopped myself. What was I going to say? "Hey Dad, the house is making noises?" I'd sound like a kid afraid of the dark. Instead, I crept to the kitchen, the linoleum cold under my feet. The back door's small window showed nothing but the black outline of the yard. I flipped on the porch light. Empty. No footprints in the grass. No sign of anyone. But as I stood there, the knocking came again. Tap, tap, tap. Now from the living room window, just behind the couch I'd been sitting on. My breath caught. I spun around, half expecting to see a face pressed against the glass. Nothing. The curtain swayed slightly, but that could have been my imagination. I checked every window and door on the first floor, my phone's flashlight cutting through the shadows. Every lock was secure, every curtain drawn. I even went upstairs, checking my parents' room, my room, the guest room, all empty. By the time I was done, my hands were clammy, and the house felt too big, too quiet. Back in the living room, I tried to calm down. I turned the TV up, hoping the noise would drown out my nerves. But at 10:15, it started again. Tap, tap, tap. This time, it was everywhere. Front door, back door, living room window, dining room window. It wasn't random anymore. It was rhythmic, synchronized, like a dozen hands knocking in unison. My pulse hammered in my ears. I grabbed a baseball bat from the hall closet, my palms slick against the wood. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. No answer. Just the relentless tap, 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 louder now, vibrating through the walls. I called my friend Jake, hoping he'd laugh and tell me I was being paranoid. He didn't pick up. I texted him, "Dude, someone's messing with the house. Knocking on everything. You nearby?" No response. The knocking stopped for a moment, and the silence was worse, thick, oppressive, like the house was holding its breath. I stood in the middle of the living room, bat in hand, listening so hard my ears rang. Then it came again, louder, faster. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. It was upstairs now, on the bedroom windows, the bathroom window, even the skylight in the hallway. How? We were on the second floor. No one could be up there without a ladder, and I hadn't heard anything heavy being dragged outside. My legs felt like jelly, but I forced myself to move, checking the front and back doors again. Still locked. Still empty. By 11 p.m., I was a wreck. I turned on every light in the house, but it didn't help. The knocking was constant now, a pounding rhythm that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It wasn't just taps anymore, it was bangs, thuds, like fists hammering the walls. I called 911, my voice shaking as I told the operator someone was trying to get in. She was calm, too calm, asking me to stay on the line while a patrol car was dispatched. "Stay safe," she said. "Don't open the door." I didn't plan to. I locked myself in my bedroom, shoving my desk against the door. The knocking followed me, now right outside my window. Bang, bang, bang. I yanked the curtains shut, but the sound didn't stop. It was inside the walls now, a deep, resonant thudding that made the floor vibrate. I clutched the bat, my knuckles white, and checked my phone. Jake had texted back, "I'm out of town, man. You okay?" My heart sank. No one was coming to help. The 911 operator's voice crackled through the phone. "Officers are 5 minutes out. Can you still hear the noise?" I opened my mouth to answer, but the knocking stopped. Dead silence. I held my breath, waiting. Then, from inside the room, a single, deliberate tap-tap-tap came from the closet door. I froze. The closet was small, barely big enough for clothes, and I'd checked it earlier. Nothing was in there. My hands shook as I gripped the bat tighter. "There's something in my room," I whispered into the phone. The operator's voice was steady, telling me to stay calm, but I could barely hear her over the blood rushing in my ears. Another tap-tap-tap from the closet, slower this time, like whatever was in there knew I was listening. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe panic, maybe stupidity, but I inched toward the closet, bat raised. The air felt wrong, heavy, and cold, like I'd stepped into a freezer. My breath fogged in front of me. I reached for the doorknob, my hand trembling, and yanked it open. Empty, just my jackets and a pile of shoes. But as I stood there, the knocking started again behind me, from the bedroom door I'd barricaded. I spun around, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. The desk was still in place, but the knocking was coming from the other side, loud and insistent. Bang, bang, bang. Then, impossibly, from the walls around me, the ceiling, the floor. It was everywhere, a cacophony of thuds that made my head spin. I screamed, "What do you want?" But the only answer was more knocking, faster, louder, like the house itself was coming alive. The operator's voice cut through. "Officers are at your door. Can you let them in?" I didn't want to move, didn't want to leave the room. But the knocking was so loud I could barely think. I shoved the desk aside, bat still in hand, and sprinted downstairs. The knocking followed, echoing from every surface, chasing me. I reached the front door, hands fumbling with the deadbolt, and flung it open. 2 officers stood there, flashlights sweeping the porch. "You okay, kid?" one asked, his eyes scanning me. I nodded, breathless, and let them in. The knocking stopped the second they stepped inside. The house was silent again, too silent. They checked every room, every closet, every window. Nothing. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no ladders. The older officer, a guy with graying hair, gave me a look that was half pity, half skepticism. "Maybe it was the wind," he said. "Old houses make noises." I didn't argue, but I knew it wasn't the wind. They stayed for 10 minutes, told me to call if it happened again, and left. I locked the door behind them, my hands still shaking. The house felt different now, like it was watching me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch, bat across my lap, every light blazing, waiting for the knocking to start again. It didn't. Not that night, not the next. My parents came home, and I told them what happened. They laughed it off, said I'd been watching too many horror movies, but I stopped staying home alone after that. Even now, years later, I can't shake the feeling that something was in the house with me, something that knew my name, something that wanted me to open the door. And sometimes, when I'm alone in a quiet room, I swear I hear it, a faint tap, 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 waiting for me to answer. If that story made your heart race faster than a cat chasing a laser pointer, smash that subscribe button and join the Nightmare Crew. We're dropping spine-chilling tales every week to keep you up at night because who needs sleep anyway? Hit the bell, and let's keep the scares coming.